Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing WillC in the 15-minute pool on ICC. Let's open with e4 again, just like we did last game in the 15-minute category. Let's see who my opponent is as well. We have another e4, e5 game. Bill Corbin, Carmel, Indiana. Okay, he has a peak 15-minute rating of 1813. I'm going to play knight f3 again. And then after knight c6, I'm either going to play Roy Lopez or I was thinking Scotch game as well, but he plays d6, the Philidor. d4 is a good antidote to that move. He takes. Okay, let's take with the knight. And now knight f6, knight c3, bishop e7 is standard. After which, I've had this position before, after bishop e7. And in that game, I believe I played bishop f4. Okay, but he plays g6 instead. So one option I have here is to try to develop in a way that allows me to castle queenside and maybe launch an attack. So maybe I'll play bishop f4, bishop g7, queen d2. I could play bishop e3, but my concern with that move is he might play knight g4. I think it would be very interesting to castle queenside as well. So I think I'll try that. So let's say bishop g7, queen d2, castle's short, castle's long. I'm all ready to play bishop h6 then. I wonder if after bishop g7, queen d2, knight c6 is a possibility, perhaps menacing knight takes e4. We shall find out. In that case, if I wanted to, I could withdraw my knight from the center, although I'd like to keep it on d4 if possible. Castling would be the most flexible for black, but he may want to consider knight c6 as well. I could also play some sort of development scheme that allows me to castle kingside. That would be normal, like bishop e2 and just castle short. But somehow this always strikes me as more dynamic and interesting. Okay, let's continue as planned. Bishop d7 seems a little odd to me. I think he wants to prepare knight c6 as he's doing now, but it just seems like he could have played it right away. And I'm not sure I would have captured, because then there would be an open b file leading towards my king. So now I can play bishop h6 if I want. My queen's a little overloaded in that case, like it would be defending the knight and the bishop, but he can't take the knight because I would take on g7. So if bishop h6, it would probably go bishop takes h6, queen takes h6, knight takes d4. Don't know if I really have much there. Maybe knight b3 is fine. Maybe I should just settle for that move. I could also take on c6 and then play e5 and try to explode the center. Maybe that's a decent choice. It's one way to take advantage of my lead in development. So knight takes c6, let's say bishop takes c6, e5. No, on bishop takes c6, I might want to play bishop d3, actually. I don't know if e5 is good there, because he could take and then our queens would be opposing each other. Looks like a likely trade. If knight takes c6, b takes c6, though, e5 seems better, because then d takes e5, bishop takes e5, I'd be threatening to take on f6 in some cases, and his bishop is loose. Okay, let's take. This is more incisive than playing the knight away somewhere, like to b3, and just declining the trade. In like the open Sicilian, for instance, oftentimes you do not want to do this. You don't want to take on c6, but this is a little bit different of a scenario, so I think it's fine. All right, so he did take with the bishop. I was thinking just bishop d3. Maybe also I could play just bishop h6 right away, because it would be pretty bold for black to take on e4, wouldn't it? I doubt they're going to try to do that too early. Yeah, that would be pretty bad for them, actually. I don't think they should embark on such a plan. Bishop d3 or bishop h6? Which one? If I play bishop h6, Trade, queen e7 maybe? He can look to castle queenside is the only thing. And he can do the same thing with bishop d3 though. Bishop d3 is not preventing castling queenside somehow. Alright, I'm going to play bishop d3. It was a close call between those two moves, but I'll leave bishop h6 on the back burner for now. Let's see if he plays flexible and goes queen e7. Or if he just castles right away. Yeah, he plays flexible, queen e7. So now maybe rook he1. Yeah, let's do that. So line up our rook with his queen. But now I could see him castling either way. Yeah, he goes long. Okay. Probably doesn't want to face an outright assault from me on the king side. Although with my rook coming over to e1, I'm not sure I would have had that strong of an attack. So if I play knight d5, bishop takes d5, pawn takes d5, maybe queen d7. I have two bishops and a space advantage there, but black is looking really solid. So nothing special, maybe. Let's play f3. Defending e4 a bit better. Maybe I can bring the bishop back to e3 without fear of knight g4 in the future. I don't know that I've really obtained any advantage, though. It just looks like a position. I mean, black's safe. I have a pawn on e4, he has a pawn on d6, otherwise the structure is symmetrical. I'm going to play king b1. This is a typical useful move, just tuck the king away a little bit more. Wouldn't be surprised to see him playing king b8 for similar reasons. I have a majority from the e file through the h file, so we'll see if that becomes relevant. I think this bishop is kind of poorly placed. Maybe I should play bishop c4 or bishop b5. Let's play bishop c4. I might want to use the d5 square somewhere down the line. If I were him, I'd be thinking about moving this knight soon, like knight d7 or knight h5. It is blocking his dark square bishop, so he may be looking to improve it. And bringing the knight to e5 makes a lot of sense. I think my bishop probably won't be sticking around on f4 very long. I think I'll probably send it to g5 or maybe back to e3. Yeah, so he plays knight d7 as predicted. So if bishop g5, he'll probably play bishop f6. And then I don't know if I want to trade, so maybe bishop back to e3. Just kind of drag his bishop out to f6 for the time being. I don't know that that's anything, though. Bishop g5, bishop f6, bishop e3, knight e5. Maybe bishop b3 then. Okay, that seems fine. Let's do that. Ooh, if bishop g5, can he go bishop takes c3, though? So my queen is trying to defend both minor pieces. Then I could take e7, but he takes d2, and I'm not coming out ahead there. Okay, maybe let's play... If I play that one first, there's knight c5. I could play bishop g5, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, but then my structure has been damaged. I don't like that. All right, I'm going to come here then. And let's see if he plays knight e5. If he does it, I think I'll play the bishop back to b3 once again. So I didn't get to entice his bishop out to f6, but we'll see if it makes a difference. Yeah, knight e5. Just play this. He's got a few extra minutes. He's played well so far. Now, what to do for black? He has to find a plan. Because thus far, his play has been not easy, but he's made a lot of moves that are just normal for the position, I'd say. But he may have to choose something more committal very soon, like moving his pawns or searching for a target to attack. Maybe I can play around with the idea of queen f2, attacking a7, trying to get him to make a pawn move. Knight d5 is always possible if I want to jump in. Just don't know if I will or not. Now that his knight is blocking his dark square bishop, I could play bishop g5 somewhere. But so long as he has bishop f6, he doesn't have to be concerned. I do win a lot of games where I force my opponents to make decisions, because when your opponents are just reacting to the moves that you make, a lot of times they're not going to make as big of errors because they just know what they have to do on any given move. Like, you attack a piece, they defend the piece, or they move the piece. You give a check, they get out of check. But when they're forced to make decisions like b6, where he has a wide choice and it's not entirely clear what to do, that's often where people begin making errors. So I think this move kind of weakens his light squares a little bit. I'm looking at knight d5, bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, because I like the scope that my light square bishop would have. I could also play bishop d5, but I think knight d5 is more to the point. So let's do that. Yeah, and I will take with the bishop in the event that he captures, so we can pre-move that. If the pawn were still on b7, then this idea might not be as threatening to him, because he could always play pawn c6. But now if he trades on d5, I take with my light square bishop, and he plays pawn c6, then he's got pawns on b6 and c6. The structure is starting to get loose a little bit. Queen d7. Okay, now I can play bishop g5 if I want. That possibility looks nice. Yeah, let's do it. I'm not even going to think about it too much. Attack his rook. He's got to play rook c8 to save it. I guess he could play bishop takes d5 still. Yeah, I think b6 was an imprecision, it looks like to me. Now after rook c8, will I play knight f6? Probably. I think getting his dark square bishop is also valuable. Yeah, then I'd be having the idea of taking on e5 at various times, especially if his queen is still on the d file. Note that pawn f6 just drops a pawn. I can take it with my knight or my bishop. Probably with the knight is better. All right, let's grab that bishop pair. Pre-move this capture. It's a fork on his queen and his rook, so he has to take. I can see myself playing queen h6 very soon, going after the h7 pawn, because this bishop does a great job of controlling all these dark squares, especially like h8. h8, e7, d8, you can't put rooks on any of those squares. This is tough for black all of a sudden. Yeah, that all started with b6. Not sure what I would do if I were him. Maybe h5? Also, his knight might be running out of squares, because I'm almost threatening f4. For the moment, he has the g4 square available, but f4 would trap the knight otherwise. So perhaps if a move like h5, I can play h3, threatening f4. And look at his queen. His queen can't move. There's no squares that are safe for the queen to move to. They're all covered by my bishops or pawns. So he may be looking at having to move this bishop in order to give the knight the c6 square to retreat to. Or maybe play a move like bishop b5 to try to get to c4, although that's shakier. Lots to think about for black. Bishop a4. All right, so he gives the a6 square as a retreat. I can still play that queen h6 move, and I don't see his defense off the top of my head. If I take e5, he'll take with his rook, so that's not winning us anything. But I think queen h6 is a good move to target that pawn. I could trade. He'll just take with his queen, though. Yeah, let's come in with our queen. Maybe he'll take, and then after a takes, he can play rook e6. That is a possibility. That might be a little bit annoying because I thought I could play bishop takes e5 then and just go pick up his h7 pawn. But I see now that if rook e6, bishop takes e5, rook takes e5, queen takes h7, he does have rook h5, hitting my queen and also attacking h2. So that could be a timely defensive move. Yeah, this is similar. This is similar. Queen e6, hitting the bishop. So what if I take? Queen takes and then rook d5. How about that? It's similar, though. He's not going to go after the h2 pawn then, but he can drop his queen back, and if ever I take h7, he's playing rook h8. I'd like to keep that dark square bishop. I could play bishop g7, looking to control h8 and maybe threaten queen takes h7. But if bishop g7, something like f6 seems worrying, because then my bishop has no escape. Maybe there's nothing here. Maybe I just have to trade or retreat the bishop. What if I take, he takes with the queen, and then I take h7, f7 is hanging. Took me a second to see that. So if I take, he might have to take with a pawn in that case. That's got to be worth something. I feel like I should have a tiny edge there. All right, let's try that. Let's see. That is important that he has to take with a pawn. Otherwise, I was looking at having to move my bishop somewhere, like g5. It just didn't seem like I was getting much. He could play rook h8 and guard the pawn. Maybe I could have kept the dark square bishop, but I don't know. So if pawn takes, I still don't want to take on h7 because he has rook h8, but I will play probably something like rook d5 and try to double up my rooks on the newly opened d file. I think that's a good plan. Try to get something going. And this idea, queen takes h7, is still lingering in the air. I haven't given up on it. If I double, it becomes hard for him to contest this file, and this is the only truly open file in the position. So he's got to be somewhat heads up about that. Okay, let's just come back here. It is awkward to defend h7 because I don't think he wants to play rook h8 like voluntarily. He'd rather only play it when I take on h7 versus having to consign the rook to a completely passive square, its home square in defense. So my queen on h6 is bothering him. So just because the position is almost symmetric with the pawn structure and it's even material, that doesn't mean it's going to be automatically drawn or even that it's draw-ish necessarily. There's still a lot of play left. The onus is still on him to equalize. Because now when I double, he's got weak squares. Like d6 is weak, I can try to bring a rook in. I can try to come to d7 thereafter, or maybe even rook d7 right away. Maybe with a rook on d7, I can play queen g7, hitting the f7 pawn twice with queen and rook, and also attacking h7. It's going to be a blitz game now. We're both going to be under 5 minutes. He could try more aggressive things like f5, looking to shake up my pawn structure. But that further weakens the 7th rank. If f5, I think I would just continue with my doubling plan. So let's say f5, rook ed1. I wonder if he could play f takes e4, f takes e4, queen g4, attacking e4 and also g2. Somehow I feel like, let's say queen takes h7, I'm coming out ahead there, because I'm going to be getting on the 7th rank very quickly. Yeah, I'm going to play this quick. I don't believe that take queen g4 is anything to be concerned about, so that's why I'm playing this move fast. Moreover, if f takes e4, I could play rook d6, I guess. Is queen f5 then? I should probably just recapture. I think I'll recapture. Let's pre-move that as well. Okay, so he plays a prophylactic move. Probably a good defensive move, I think. Before I can get on the file. So rook d6, he'll play queen e7. He's got everything under control, huh? What if I take on f5? And he takes with the pawn, rook d8 check. He has king b7. He wouldn't want to take with his rook because he needs that to defend his queen. I can play rook d6, queen e7, e takes f5. Because then if g takes f5, I take on c6, and I'm winning a pawn. That is important. Okay, let's do that. I wonder, he might get a passed e-pawn in that case, but no, I've got threats of my own. Yeah, so this is a nice idea. So I take c6. We linked up with my queen, going laterally along the 6th rank. And if he trades and then plays e4, looking to create a passed pawn really quick, I have rook d7. Threatening his queen and threatening queen b7 mate. So I don't think he can do that. He plays e4 straight away. All right, so if we take, he's taking with the queen maybe. If I take here, he's probably taking with the pawn. Gotta watch that pawn doesn't become too dangerous. All right, let's just take here first. I want to see which way he recaptures. Takes with the king. Interesting. Don't know that I would have taken that way, but maybe it's all right. So if I give a check, queen e5 is going to happen. Let's take. Pawn takes, maybe check again. Or queen e3. Queen e3 might be best. Just blockade. I hope my queen doesn't have to stick around in e3 for very long. But for the moment, it might be the best thing to do. Yeah, let's play queen back to e3. His king's a little exposed. If I check him, it gives him a reason to hide. King b7. So I might want to do it this way. So I'm up a pawn, but we'll see if this is difficult to convert. I mean, time is going to play probably the biggest factor. So if rook here, queen takes h2. Let's just play g3. We'll stop queen takes h2. If he moves rook f8, I can play rook e1. And remind him that this pawn is weak. There's also rook d4. King c6. Wow. Yeah, I don't know about that move. Seems bold. So I can check and then maybe go take h7. But then his e3 pawn is going. So check. Check king c7. I take here, rook e7. I can still stop that pawn, but it's annoying then. Okay, I'm just going to play here. Just playing this on general grounds. Maybe rook c4 is an issue for him. Queen h6 might have been the best move, though. We'll see. I want to tie his queen and rook down to the e4 pawn. Okay, if queen c3 check, king b7, I have rook d7 check. That nearly looks winning. In fact, I think it is. Queen c3 check, king b7, rook d7. If he takes, I have queen takes e5. So he's got to play king a6, and then I have queen c4 or queen c8. Yeah, I think that's good to go. Yeah, so this move now.
Check.
Nice tactical point. Yeah, that should do the trick. Still some issues. King a6, queen c8 check. He's got to do that. I want a simple win here, but I don't quite see it yet. So if I check here, b5 is forced. Queen c6, king a5, rook d5 is good enough there, though. Let's do that.
Check.
If king a5, there's queen a4 mate, so we can't do that. Yeah, so if queen c8, king a5, I'm just not sure. Because a7 is guarded by his own rook. So I think this, though, wins.
Check.
He's got to play there. And now I'm thinking this move. Let's do that. So hitting the queen, threatening queen takes b5 mate. Yeah, he kind of has to give up the queen. And if he gives up the queen and then pushes the e-pawn, I have queen d8 check, forking the king and the rook. And that wins. There might have been some way to checkmate him without having to resort to this, but I think this is best. He has queen b8 right now. Another move I didn't see. Queen b8 guarding b5. A lot of tactics to consider. Maybe queen here. Wow, this check must be good. Trying to entice his king onto this square so I can play queen c5. If king a4, his king is marching to its death. Actually, I see mate in 2 now.
Check.
So let's just do that. And then queen a3 checkmate.
Checkmate.
Okay, so we got a little king hunt in at the end. We were under a minute, though, so came right down to the wire. Let's go back and have a look. So we played a Philidor, d6 on move 2, d4. Now that famous Morphy versus the Duke of Brunswick Count Isouard game went bishop g4, which is known to be a mistake. My opponent took on d4, which is one way to play it. Sometimes people play knight d7 as well, just reinforcing the e5 pawn. But he took d4. Here white can take with the queen or the knight. So I took with the knight. He played knight f6. I played knight c3. g6. Yeah, bishop e7 is the other move. I don't know that I've faced g6 before, but I just tried to develop aggressively. Bishop f4. There's other schemes too. As I mentioned, if I wanted to go kingside, I could just play something like bishop e2, castle. Maybe bishop c4 is acceptable too. Sometimes with bishop c4, you have to watch knight takes e4 tricks, though, with the center fork trick idea. Black playing d5 thereafter. Knight takes e4, d5 to try to fork the 2 minor pieces. He wouldn't do that right away, but maybe after castling. But I played bishop f4, bishop g7, queen d2. Yeah, I thought this move was a little conservative, but it might be okay. I thought he should just play knight c6 because I've already sort of indicated I want to go long. And after knight c6, I don't think I would have taken, because then he has the b file to attack with. Maybe I could. Maybe I could play e5 here or something. But, I don't know. Didn't seem necessary to preface knight c6 with bishop d7. Not a bad idea, though. So bishop d7, I castled. He went knight c6. Knight took. And he took with the bishop. If he had taken with the pawn, I was playing around with the idea of playing e5 and trying to use my lead in development. Pry open the center. D takes, bishop takes. And then one idea is like he cannot castle because I can play bishop takes f6. I think. Maybe that's not true, actually. Castle, bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, queen takes d7. This is my idea. Is this a problem? Ah, I can go here. Oh, and my rook is defended by the knight. Okay. I was thinking black might have like a check or something, and then after king b1, like this rook would be hanging, but I am defending it with the knight. Looks a little shaky, but I guess it works out for white. So that was an option in the event of b takes c6, but he took with the bishop. I played bishop d3. Possibly somewhere around here I can play more accurately. I wasn't thrilled about the position I had. It was just a position. It wasn't anything special about it. Like, the computer says play f3 right away. Maybe that's better, especially in view of what happened, because maybe I could just assign the bishop to c4 directly after that. In the game, I played bishop d3, and then a few moves later played bishop c4. So here, yeah, and he castled long, probably a good plan. Computer's still giving me a healthy edge, but I think that's overstated. This doesn't look like a plus 8/10 of a pawn advantage to me. I mean, black is solid, and he hasn't done anything wrong. So f3 just supporting the center. I played king b1. Computer likes knight b5, maybe trying to attack a7. King b1 seems fine too. It seems too early to play e5. I know the engine was also liking that move, but looks like it induces liquidations. Maybe I have something aggressive I can do, though. Doesn't seem like it, though. So king b1. King b1 is a good move to play just on general grounds when you've castled queenside. It can be helpful when more concrete operations begin, because your king is always nicely tucked away. So he plays king b8. I went bishop c4, just repositioning it. Repositioning the bishop. I don't think the bishop's doing anything on this diagonal anymore, so that's why I played that move. It eyes the f7 pawn too. He played knight d7. Now I was about to play bishop g5, but I noticed, thankfully, at the last second that he can do this move. My queen is overloaded. I want to take with the queen and keep my pawn structure nice and tidy, but that hangs the bishop. So I'd have to take this way, and then he can play f6, and I have the bishop pair, but I don't know that that compensates for the pawn structure damage. So I played bishop e3. He went knight e5. I played bishop b3. Yeah, and here he used a little bit of time, a little over a minute. And I was mentioning how sometimes in positions where it's not obvious what to do, like you're not just responding to your opponent's moves, you actually have to come up with a plan yourself. That's where a lot of people begin making mistakes. And I think b6 was a mistake, in my opinion. Yeah, the eval even goes up for the computer, too. It just doesn't seem necessary to push a pawn over here yet. That said, I'm not sure what I would do as black. It seems like he should maybe try to create some pawn action, but like he's outnumbered on the king side, this 3 versus my 4. And he has a majority from the a file through the d file, 4 pawns versus my 3. But it's really tough to push because that's where our kings are. He doesn't just want to start pushing these pawns willy-nilly. Playing d5 is like out of the question. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces on that square, so he can't ever push that one. So this position might be comfortably better for white. It just didn't seem like it during the game, but maybe I just have to kind of wait and see how the play develops. Maybe if he makes, let's say he plays, some move like knight d7, just goes back. Maybe I'll slowly start crawling forward using my majority. I don't know what that would look like necessarily at the moment, but maybe g4, h4, h5 down the line. Knight d5 I could always try to play and seize the bishop pair. So I'd say this is more comfortable for white. Black can probably maintain the balance or close to it, but white is retaining an edge, I'd say. So he played b6, and then I played knight d5, and he's going to be hesitant to part with the light square bishop because he has newly created light square weaknesses by virtue of having played b6. He's got all his pawns over there on dark squares. Still, that might be the best bet. So he played queen d7 and then bishop g5, and now there were many weaknesses to cope with. He played this. I played knight f6. Here I think he made a good decision because I was commenting on how I had ideas like queen h6 and also trying to prepare f4 and trap his knight. But he recognizes that he needs to trade one of my bishops, and the light square bishop is the bishop that's most accessible to a trade, so that's what he does. Maybe I had something better here, I don't know. If I play bishop takes a4, that does drag his queen all the way over here. And then maybe queen h6. Abandoning my king a little bit, but knight c4 is not that dangerous because my bishop is actually assisting in the defense down here. So maybe I can just go and grab the pawn. Yeah, maybe bishop takes a4 is more accurate than what I did. I let him take on b3. I thought that would kind of help me after a takes b3. But then his queen is closer. So maybe I should have just done this, or sorry, maybe I should have done this, this, and then queen h6. And I stand a good chance of winning this pawn. But as played, I played queen h6. He took on b3. I took with a pawn. And then queen e6, good defensive move. attacking my bishop. I took on e5. I think I like that decision still. But it was a shame that I couldn't do anything else. So I can't take h7 because my bishop is hanging. If I play bishop g7, this would be like the greedy move. Trying to set up queen takes h7. I was worried he would play f6 and my bishop would be stuck in the opponent's territory, behind enemy lines. Computer somehow thinks I can maintain equality, but I don't want to go from attempting to secure an advantage to suddenly struggling to keep my peace and maintain equality. So I took e5. An important realization was that if queen takes e5, queen takes h7, I think I can pick up this pawn. If he goes rook h8, I can take here. And he'll win h2, but g6 is also hanging. And I'm already up a pawn, even in the event that he plays rook takes h2 successfully. Yeah, so he wants to take with a pawn instead, and I can't take here because of rook h8. And not only is he attacking the h2 pawn after that, but he's actually trapping my queen in this case. No way out for the white queen. But now that he's taken with the pawn, we have a newly opened d file, and I am a little bit quicker to occupy it than him. So I played rook d5, getting ready for rook ed1. He played c6, possibly a weakening move again, weakens the d6 square. f5. Oh, I can just take here now, huh? I don't know why I didn't consider that. I thought it would be more of the same after rook h8, but I guess I can go... I was thinking queen d7, but I guess queen g7? And if take, do I take here? Is this the idea? Ah, even more straightforward. Rook d7, just going for the mate. Gotcha. Okay, so maybe after f5, I can simply grab on h7 is fine. Okay, yeah. So that might be better than my rook ed1 move. I resolved to play rook ed1 pretty quickly. I played it in 7 seconds, so I didn't think too much about queen takes c7. I was predicting the game might go like this and then queen g4. And I was thinking I would have excellent play. Like take here, and if he takes on e4, I have rook d7 again. And he's in big trouble, I think. I guess c5 defends the b7 square for the moment with the queen, but it still seems suspicious for him. So he played rook c7. I played rook d6, attacking the queen. Yeah, and maybe queen f7 is necessary. I think we were both looking at queen e7 here after rook d6, because that's what he played, and that's what I anticipated. Queen f7 I didn't really look at too much. I can take here all the same, though. And if pawn takes, I still take c6. But take, there is queen takes. And structurally, black might be a little bit worse. He has an isolated e-pawn, but maybe there's nothing for white. This rook on c7 is doing a great job of defending laterally and vertically, protecting his weak points. Okay, so queen f7 could be played, and the computer thinks I should drop my queen back and maybe reinforce this pawn. I could see why I'm somewhat better here still. I mean, I have control over the file, and he's got weaknesses, but it's not a huge advantage. He played queen e7, and then I was able to win a pawn. Yeah, and one line I looked at was rook takes c6, queen takes c6, and now he has to address the threat of rook d7. Like, he can't just push the e-pawn because this rook comes in and threatening the queen and threatening mate. So he did the right thing, I think. He pushed e4. I took c7. He took with the king. I thought he might take with the queen. I thought that was perhaps superior, even though he undefends the rook by doing that. It keeps his king a bit more guarded. I guess I could play queen h5, attacking the e8 rook and also the pawn on f5. Now that I'm up a pawn, the sole thing that is going to concern me is black's e-pawn, because that's a pass pawn, and I don't want him to be able to push that much further than it already is. If it gets to e3 or, God forbid, e2, my extra pawn could be relatively meaningless. So take, f takes e. I pulled the queen back to e3, so that looks okay. Computer's still showing like a roughly one pawn advantage for white, consistent with my material. But I have a feeling that if black defended accurately here, he could make life very difficult for me to convert. He played queen e5. I just went g3. This weakens the f3 square a little bit, but I don't know that it matters too much. I guess I could play h3 if I was worried about that. So g3, king c6. This move was strange to me. I don't know why he played king c6, because it's not like he's going to attack with his king. That's a little silly. If the queens were off the board, like, I could see why king c6 might be good to try to get closer to his e-pawn. But with queens on the board, I think his king is just too exposed now. If he's going to move his king, I was going to say king b7 makes more sense, but I guess he does have to guard this square. Yeah, it might be kind of hard to find a move for him, because if he moves the rook, like trying to get active with that, I can always remind him that the e4 pawn is weak.
Check.
This doesn't work.
Check.
Because I have rook a4 to block. He's not going to checkmate me. So he played king c6, and I got the rook up to d4. Yeah, and I think that was the losing move, rook e7. So now it looks like he has to defend the king. Maybe king b7, just come back. Again, there's rook d7. I keep forgetting about rook d7. Queen e7 is the best move. So that way it's check. He can just come back here. Okay, and there's no 7th rank issues. Yeah, he needs something accurate in defense right now. It's tough, though. I think king c6 was a inaccuracy for sure. So he played this and then check. Here, and then this is the point we get rook d7 in. Can't take with a rook, he loses his queen. So he's got to move his king out. Yeah, and moving the king back, I'm sure, would be losing. You have king b8, there's a mate in 2.
Check.
Rook d8, king b7, queen c8 mate, covering the a6 flight square. King a8 is met by queen c8. So this is forced.
Check.
I check c4. He can't block with the queen, because then at the very least we can just take the rook. Winning. If king a5, there's queen a4 checkmate. So that forces his reply, b5.
Check. I
went here, check. Yep, okay, and rook d5 is the best move. Yeah. Glad to have seen that, because, you know, when your clock is ticking down and you know you have an advantage, but you also know the position's complicated, that's like a recipe for panic sometimes. So I'm glad I didn't, like, overreact and do something rash here. It's kind of annoying that his rook on e7 defends the a7 pawn, and his queen also defends the c7 square. So I was looking for a second at something involving b4, but then I spotted that rook d5 was a simple way to do it. Yeah, attacking the queen and threatening mate. And if he gives up the queen for the rook, maybe if this pawn were a little further advanced, it'd be a problem. But you know, if he pushes it, as I said, there's this move at the very minimum, forking the king and the rook. Even if I had to play something horribly passive like this, I would also be completely winning. All that would happen is I would just bring my king over and sack on e2, and I'm up 2 pawns in the endgame. So he played back, and b4 is leading to mate. Yeah, takes here. If king a4, I saw a couple different solutions to this, but the most direct one is probably this.
Check.
And then queen b3 mate. Could probably also play a quiet move like this, and then just come over here. Yeah, black's only move to stave off mate for another move here is queen takes g3, defending laterally, but he will succumb. So he took.
Check.
Yeah, we got the checkmate. So it looks like I played the concluding stage pretty well, I would say, after I won the pawn. Maybe my opening play could have been improved a little bit. I think bishop d3 was kind of a lame move. I didn't have to play that. Yeah, maybe when he played bishop a4, I was better off taking the bishop and then playing queen h6. I underestimated this defense with queen e6. And the rook coming to h8 in a lot of lines. But I think we pressured him nicely with the open d-file. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.